Right, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now, I've had a subscriber asked if I would make a Matchbox Brewster Buffalo in the colours of the Dutch Air Force. So I've had a rummage around my stash and I've come up with this one. This is a 1974 box of the Brewster Buffalo. Again, you got some Roy Huxley artwork on the front. The box is a little bit faded, but it's in decent condition. So we've got here New Zealand Squadron number 488 lose 2 aircraft and 5 damaged against a force of 27 Japanese fighters in their first combat mission, Singapore, January 12th, 1942. Now they look like zeros are up against them, so we've got a couple of Buffaloes there. There's one going down there, there's a zero going down there, so they obviously drew some blood. Now the Brewster Buffalo wasn't the best of fighters, but if that's the only thing you've got, then that's the best thing since sliced bread. So we'll have a quick look at the artwork. Very exciting though it is, but like I said, the box is faded, but that's it's a lovely little vignette of a little battle going on there of the tubby little Brewster Buffalo. Like I say, it wasn't the greatest fighter, but it certainly got some character. Again, Matchbox gives you an idea of the other things they're doing with the full-on artwork before they got censored. There we go. So we've got two options: the Dutch Air Force and the Royal New Zealand Air Force flying out of Singapore in 41. I was asked to do that one, but I'm actually going to do the RAF version because it looks far more interesting with a two-tone underwing colour, and there's a lot more room for weathering. All right, let's have a look in the box because I know what's coming next. Oh yeah, it was from Beatties and it's 30 pence. So that's back in the day. That's probably 1974 price that. Right, let's have a look and see what's inside the box. I haven't looked inside this for a while, but there's certainly a glow coming from it, if you know what I mean. Let's see what we've got. Right, let's look at the elephant in the room first. What, I mean, holy moly, what is going on with this colour? I can't even describe this red. I don't know, it's a colour not known in nature, this. This is an unbelievable colour for a... I can't even see the connection. Anyway, so they've gone with that and gone with like a beigey grey colour, which is, yeah, okay, I guess. But I have no idea who thought of this colour was a good idea. I mean, to be fair, if these Buffaloes were painted this colour in 1942, I think the zeros would have just wouldn't have come near them, thinking these were the Devil's planes. But anyway, we're going to be building this and painting this, so that'll soon disappear because that's basically hurting my eyes. So you've got your two fuselage sides, simple cockpit. We've got the pilot, so we're going to fit him in as well. Wheels, tyres, undercarriage, exhaust string, I think, from the engine. Not a very detailed engine, but again, this is a 1974 kit. Two-piece wings, three-bladed prop. Looks complete. Canopy. It's all right. It's a bit hefty, but that should mask up all right. The stand, we're not going to be using that because we're going to be putting on its undercarriage and we're going to be weathering it down, painting it and weathering it down. The transfers from 1974 don't look the best, but I'll use them. We'll try and get away with them. I try to use as much as I can from the original kit. Instructions. Now that I tell you what, the 70s, that was the decade for colours, wasn't it? Right, so we've got our instructions. Simply pilot into the seat, pilot into the fuselage together, wings on, engine on, bish bash bosh, undercarriage on, and it's as simple as that. Right, so we're going to crack on. We're actually going to try and do a speed build on this. What I'm going to do, everything I use for making this kit, I'm going to keep out on the desk so we can see what I use. I'm going to try and keep the materials down to a minimum. I think we'll start by putting the fuselage together with the undercarriage bay and the canopy and the seat. I think the pilot, I'll be able to pop him in later. Right, let's cut them bits off the sprue and we'll get cracking. Right, as we'd expect, the ancient kit from Matchbox it's built up perfectly. No issues whatsoever. Canopy's loose and the pilot's loose because I'm going to obviously paint them off the aircraft and put them together. So I'll paint the interior. I mean, I cannot wait to get a coat of primer on this to get rid of this whatever colour. Come on, suggestions in the comments for what colour this is. There was a slight issue. Like I said, there's a kit from 1974 had a slight gap between the wing root and the fuselage. I've just ran some crystal clear in the gap, which is like a little thin wood glue, and that'll dry. I'll give it a coat of primer and we'll see what it looks like. But apart from that, it's built up lovely. It's got nice delicate little undercarriage, very fragile. It's got some nice touches, a little detail on the undercarriage bay there. Just a bit of scrape cleaning to get rid of the seam on the fuselage, but it fits together perfectly. A kit from 1974, 73, 74, something like that anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a coat of primer and get rid of this red colour. Although to be fair, looking at the side of the box, that's what they were going for, which I think is more of a reddy brown than what's actually occurred. But like I say, standards may not have been that hot back in the 1970s about matching the box art up to the model. Right, so we're going to get some primer on this. Then we'll paint the interior, paint the little pilot, pop him in. Then we'll get the canopy on, which is a perfect fit. No issues whatsoever. And then we'll get that masked up, which might prove a bit tricky because there's plenty of straight edges, but it's a bit rounded and beveled as well. But that's where we are at the minute. One teeny little Buffalo, about to get primed and get rid of that red. Right, there we have it. That's the model primed. Got rid of that red. A little bit on the tail, but I'll sort that out. So what I've done, so we've primed it in grey. We've sorted out the gaps in the wing root. It's okay. It's not brilliant, but it's more than acceptable for this scale or for this type of model. Given the interior cockpit a quick blast of green, the binnacle a little blast of black, and a bit on the undercarriage. But obviously I'm going to go in with the camouflage colour shortly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give that a wash, a dry brush. I've got the pilot as well, just got some basic colours on him. Again, he's going to get a wash and a dry brush. Then he's going to get popped in the cockpit. The cockpit will be closed up. You're not going to see much of the pilot through the glass, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So what we're going to do now, give it a wash, give it a dry brush, get the pilot in, get the canopy glued in, and then we can start masking the canopy and we'll get the camouflages painted on. I can't wait to see what it looks like with its two-tone underside and its green and earth upper colour. Right, let's crack on. So that's what we've got. We've got the pilot all finished off in the cockpit. So you can see the effect by simple dry brush and wash and blocked colours gets you. That's more than enough. I'm happy with that. So when the canopy's on, there's not a lot to see. I'm going to put the canopy on with this stuff, crystal clear. It's excellent, it's strong, it dries clear. So I'm going to run a bead around the cockpit, pop it on, let that dry, then we'll start masking the canopy and we'll get some paint on it. Alright, so we've got the underneath painted. So we've got the sky on the left hand side, which was AK Interactive paint. Oh no, sorry, it's Tamiya. And we've got black on the right hand side, which is I used Revell's semi-gloss black, which I think is it's just the best. I love Revell enamels, are very, very good. So that's that, split down the middle, a bit of masking, painted that first, masked it, sprayed the black. Very nice. Now obviously we're going to weather that down, but now we're going to do the top half of the Buffalo. I've masked the canopy. Now I've used this. I've not really used this before, so this is a bit of an experiment. It may or may not work. I'm not too keen on it. So I basically used that and ran that in to the canopy area, and hopefully it'll just cover the glass and not the frame. So we'll mask it up. I think we'll get the green on first, and we'll get the earth on after that. Then we can take all the masking off. We'll take the masking off the canopy to see if it's actually worked, and it has made a complete I'm going to say mess up. I don't know, can you swear on YouTube or not? Anyway, so we'll do that. I'll mask that up and we'll see. Oh, you bugger. There we go. Dropping it. And I did swear. So we'll get that masked up and we'll get the green on and we'll see what it looks like. So stand by. Right, so we're masked up. I've used a combination of Maskol and Tamiya masking tape. So along the leading edge, basically just a Maskol for the underneath and Maskol for the engine cowl. So our paint of choice is going to be AK. Going to use some AK Interactive Dark Green and Dark Earth. Quite nice colours. And we've got our AK thinner. So we'll fire up the airbrush. We'll go with the green first. I'll do some light coats over the canopy. And then the whole lot will be in green. And then I'll mask off to do the Dark Earth. which I'll do as a hard edge, and I'll do that with Maskell, and I'll show you how I do that as well. But I'll get some green on first, and then I'll show you how I mask the model to get the earth on, and I'll show you how to do that. Here we go, back to the Buffalo. Now, for you, obviously, it's pretty short jump from one video to the next, but it's been weeks since I've been on this one. It's been a bit of a disaster, so I'll just run through the calamity of the Brewster Buffalo. So, I've got a nice demarcation between the sky and the black there. It's looking good. The brown, oh dear me, the camouflage colours. Well, I'll tell you what, start with the canopy first. So I took the mask off, and you can see we have some, well, it's crept under the mask on the canopy, but I think I should be able to sort that out because it's quite deep framing, so I should be able to clean it up. I'll show you how to do that later on. But as you can see, the paintwork, oh yeah me. I masked it originally with this. I masked the camouflage pattern with that. I don't know what this is for. It's absolute dog doo-doo. It dries really hard. You can't get it off. You have to scrape it off. It dries very thin. I did it as to mask off the camouflage sections on the Buffalo. I've used this for several different applications, and I cannot see a reason for this. That's going in the bin. So we got rid of that. So I tried it with the Maskell, the Humbrol Maskell, which is quite good, the pink stuff. But unfortunately that had turned into like a mushy porridge, so that went in the bin as well. So I thought, right, I'll go over the top of it, brush painting, just thin down brush paint to get the area sorted, but it just didn't work out. And you can even see the demarcation line there between the, it was just, I don't know, sometimes kits go wrong. This has gone wrong. However, I'm going to show you how to bring it back to life. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get the airbrush fired up, and I'm going to airbrush in the brown. I'm not going to bother masking the canopy because I'm going to be really fine. We're going to try and keep a straight edge, like a hard edge I should say, and we'll try and bring it back from the dead. I'm going to obviously have to airbrush this bit in here. I might give it a little flatten it over with some warm, wet and dry, airbrush it back in, then I'm going to have to go in with a paintbrush and sort that out. Probably the same on that side, although it's not too bad, but I will get some paint sprayed in there. We'll get the brown on, we'll see what it looks like, and then I'll probably go in with the green. I'm going to use Revell's Earth for this. I have been using AK, but I'm going to use Revell Earth for that. Now, this is where you can turn mistakes or things that aren't going to plan to your favour. So now I'm going to airbrush some brown in. I might go in the panel lines, so I'm now going to get some sort of shaded variation. Airbrush shaded variation, so it's going to look a lot better than this sort of like streaky brush painting effect. Obviously having to thin the paint down to get it to work, it just hasn't gone on very well. So it happens, but we'll pull it back from the dead. We'll fire up the airbrush. Like I say, I'll just go and feather this in, and I'll show you what the results are when it's done. But we're back on with the Buffalo, and we'll rescue it. Right, I think I've saved it. So there we go. We've got some nice variations on the camouflage pattern. So as you can see, we've got rid of that sort of streaky appearance. Got a nice finish on it now. And we've sorted out these lines. Might have to tidy them up a little bit, but there is a big band that goes around the fuselage anyway. So I've gone in again, well, I've basically gone in again with these two from Revell. Those two, what's it, 393 and 82. So I've gone in with them. Just very fine airbrushing of the feather and the lines a little bit. But they're slightly darker than the AK colour, so the green and the brown. But it gives you, if you're careful how you airbrush it, you can get a nice faded sort of streaky appearance. Because I want these to look a bit battered because they're in quite difficult environment, very humid, very dry, could be a lot of moisture, so it's going to be harsh on the paintwork. And then I went in again with the AK dark earth and the dark green just to bring it back a bit. I've sort of touched in this line again, but like I say, once we get the band on, we'll have a look. The canopy I've left for now. I'll rescue that later on, and I'll show you how I do that. But for now, we're going to see if these work. So this is a kit from, was it 73 or somewhere, 74, something like that. It's a prehistoric kit. Let's have a quick look. It was 1974. So these are 50-year-old, these transfers. Now, those ramdels don't look particularly good. The other ones look okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll grab me trusty gloss varnish. I'll give it a little brush coat of that, maybe a couple of coats of that. Then I'll try the central band first to see what happens with that, because if that totally disintegrates and falls apart, I'll be able to mask it and paint it. But let's see what happens. So I'll get a coat of that on. So basically I'm just going to brush coat it on. You don't really have to shake it, it's pretty thin. I would usually have gone over the canopy with it as well, but since I haven't sorted that yet, we'll just leave it for now. Just get a reasonably soft brush. So I've got a Humbrol number 2, which is fine for this type of work. A little dab of that. Don't need much on the brush. And you've got to make sure it doesn't pool. So get as much coverage as you can with what you've got on your brush. Like I say, make sure it doesn't pool, because it'll leave a nasty little sort of like globular sort of mess, which you'll have to try and sort out. Right, I'll give that a gloss varnish, and then we'll come back and we'll try these transfers. We'll have a laugh, see what happens. Right, let's try this transfer. So we're going with the central band. I think it's like a sky colour. So I've cut it from the backing paper. Let's grab a paintbrush. Now what I usually do, I just so I've cut it from the back and from the main sheet. I'm just going to put some water on it. I'm going to keep it flat as well, because sometimes old transfers will curl up and crack. So we'll do it carefully. This might not be the most riveting video you've ever seen, but we'll discover together whether these transfers are any good. So the water's absorbing into the backing paper. I'll put a bit more on. Matchbox transfers usually come off quite easily. So it hasn't curled up, so it hasn't cracked. That's a bonus. So I think that's enough water on there, so all the backing paper's soaked. We'll just see if it'll release. It's kind of cut correctly to the shape of the fuselage, but known Matchbox transfers from back in the day were never a very good fit. So you see I've got a gloss coat on that, so the transfer should go on there lovely. It's not moving yet. Put a bit more water on. So I don't know what conditions this model's been kept in the last 50 years. Whether moisture's got in and set them off or what, I don't know. Usually you turn it over and look at the back of the backing paper. And that's all gone through, so there we go, starting to move. Look at that, pretty good. So that's moved off pretty well. So it's going to go on there. I'll just give it a bit more dip with some water. Checking the box art. See if it'll go around. It's gone around no problem. Now see if we can line it up. Now let's get a paintbrush for this. That looks like it needs to go back a bit. It's got to be delicate with this. And back again. So we're going to try and get them lined up now. I'll grab my knife for that. A bit more delicate work. Try and get it nice and straight so it looks a bit skew whiff there. If it's going to be excess transfer, I'd rather have it at the top than at the bottom. Then I can sort of trim it off and touch it in with paint. But this looks like it's going to be a pretty good fit. That's looking pretty good. Just get it up a little bit more, I think. It'll spin around a little bit more. Don't want to tear it. So I think, make sure that's nice and straight. That looks pretty good. It's not a bad colour match either. I might have to touch in the top there. So what I'll do, I'll let it air dry. I'll not put any sort of transfer solution on it at the minute. See how it settles down. I'm quite pleased with that. That's very good. Usually, I do remember Matchbox models being a bit of a pain to get the bands around them, fuselage bands, but it might have been me back in the day who couldn't do it. So we'll let that dry. I'll put the rest of them on and we'll see what it's like when we come back. Right, that's the transfers on, and they went down very nicely. For transfers that are 50-year-old, they've gone on lovely, gone inside the recessed lines, no problem whatsoever. Didn't tear, didn't stretch, no silvering. The ramdels, which were a little kind of out of shape, are okay. I'll live with them. I've done a bit of painting on the undercarriage. Got a bit of paint on the tyres, the propeller. It's got a little bit of paint on. It's a little bit patchy, but I'm going to weather it down, so that's going to be okay. I have cleaned the canopy, as you can see. So basically, what I've got is an old paintbrush, sort of sharpened the end a bit, so it's a wooden bit, and then basically just gone round all the framing and just scraping off all the old paintwork. I'll give this a coat of matte varnish at the end, gloss varnish at the end, so we'll bring the shine back on them, on the windows, so they look really good. What I'm going to do now, we're going to start doing some weathering. I really want it to be weathered quite badly. Well, not like it's a scrapper out like that, but a nice bit of weathering on to represent the sort of atmospheric conditions it lives in. So what I'm going to do, basically just going to give some highlights on the engine. I have given it a little dry brush, but I'll just quickly show you how I'm going to do that. So I've got some Citadel paint, get it all over my fingers, brilliant. So that's chainmail silver. I've got my Army Painter dry brushing brush. So just get some of that on the brush and just wipe it all off as much as you can. Come here, man. So working in the bristles and just basically take off as much as you can, or as much as you like. It's silver, it's a darker silver, it's quite overpowering, so you really want to get as much off as possible. And we get the front end there and just give it a quick run round, and it picks up the highlights of the cylinders and a bit on the front end there, the boss for the propeller. So that's picked it up lovely. I'm going to give it a little wash inside, sort of null oil from the Citadel as well. Right, so I'm going to weather it down. I'm going to make a sort of wash for it, an oil wash. I'll do that in a minute. Now, because we haven't got real panel lines on here, because it's quite an old kit, I'm going to sort of suggest it with the washers, and I'm going to go in with the green and the brown again, and I'll show you how to sort of like give some sort of illusion that panels are there or panel lines are there, and just give the model a bit more of a structure to it. Same on the underside, we'll go over that as well. I'll obviously airbrush some other things on it as well, some exhaust stains, etc., and some dust and dirt. But I'll start by putting the wash on it now. So I'll mix that in a second. I basically make out my own oil paints and some white spirit, and we'll start getting some weathering effect on the model and bring it to life, as it were. Right, here we're back with a little Buffalo, and I've done quite a bit of work on it. I thought I'd better stop and show you where we're up to. So it's had oil washers, as you can see on the wing root there, various little oil washers. Had a couple of goes at that, and then sort of where people would be standing, there's more oil washers on there. Now I was on about like trying to create panel lines. See if you can see it there. So just with a slightly lighter paint on the green and the brown, you just sort of go like horizontal and like perpendicular to the panels, to like the structure of the plane, and it'll give you a hint of panel line. And you could go to the full extent of rescribing this whole model, but I think that's a bit over the top. You could do it if you wanted to, but I'd rather just give the illusion of panel lines being there. You can do a lot with paint to give you that illusion. So it's had washers, it's been touched in with various other types of paint, more browns, more greens, and more sort of sky colour to sort of break it up a little bit. Looks like it's a little bit weather worn. I've also added a top peg for the aerial to go along with that one, so I'll put that on. The last thing I'll do is that. I've given the canopy a little dry brush, so it's like lifted it a little bit dry brush on the ailerons and the rear tail controls as well, again to lift some detail. I've added a pitot tube there, just out of stretch sprue, because that was missing on the model. I wasn't going to go that far with this one, but I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Underneath, again, we've got panel line, ghost panel lines, if you want to call them that. So like, just sort of fooling the thinking they're there. Then I've gone with a silver pencil, and added scratches and scuff marks on the metalwork itself. I've also done the propeller and the engine banks as well with a little wash of Nuln oil from Citadel. I've also drilled out the gun ports on the wings and the gun ports on the ring of the engine there. I don't really know exactly where they go. I've just kind of gone off the box art and taken a rough guess. So that's the drill I've been using. It's just like a standard twist drill, and I was busy doing it. I thought, well, I better show people how I do it. So basically what I do to drill a hole, just got in with my scalpel, just put a little dot and just twisted it to get a start for the drill, and just pop it in like that. Make sure you're nice and straight. I'm nearly done, so I just thought I'll show you just to finish it off. And you can see some of that lovely red plastic has come out, and that'll do. I'll paint them black and like put some smudgy areas around it, and then go in with a silver pencil to like accentuate those holes. So what I'm going to do now, once I've done that, I'll paint the navigation lights in on the wing tips. There you can see, look how rough sort of the wings look, with different sort of textures and different types of paint on. But once the flat varnish goes on that, it'll kill all that and it'll look spectacular, I promise. Undercarriage, nice and simple. Wheels done. Shockers, oh god, ailerons, what do you call them again? The shockers on the undercarriage. You totally forget when you're doing these videos, honestly, and have a conversation, and then you're trying to talk to yourself and try and explain what you're talking about, and you totally have a mind melt. It's really not as easy as it seems. I didn't bother with any airbrushing. Everything's been done with brush. Again, you can see just like lighter colour to give some sort of illusion that there's panel lines are there. So what I'm going to do next is obviously paint the gun holes, giving an illusion of barrels being there. I'm now going to give it a coat of matte varnish, but I've nipped off to my local hobby craft, and I've got some Tamiya mascal, which is excellent. I think this is the best one on the market. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to blob it on the windows, let it set, then I'm going to give the model a coat of matte varnish. I'll put the other bits and bobs on. I'm not too far from being complete with this, and then we'll see where we're at. We'll put a few more scuff marks in with a silver pencil once the varnish has gone down, because obviously once the varnish goes on, it kind of flattens everything. So if you go in again with a silver pencil, it accentuates it again, so it looks like you've got old scratches, new scratches. So we'll do that. So what I'll do with that, I'll get my old paintbrush and just blob it in the windows. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that actually. I'm trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter, but I'm not really showing you the techniques. Let's try and find an old paintbrush. So you've got one that I'll use for mascal. That one might do. Might be a little bit big, but I'll just give you an idea of how we do it. This one's had mascal on before. So take the lid off. Lovely pink. So just get a bit on your, might need a smaller brush, but you'll get the idea. Put a blob on there and just let it run into the corners. I might go over it with a smaller brush actually, just to push it in. So I'll do all that, we'll let it set, then we'll give it a coat of matte varnish and we'll come back and see how good or bad it isn't, or is. Right, we're now going to go for the coat of matte varnish. That's my varnish of choice from Vallejo, whatever. That's really good stuff, that fixes all ills. It's already pre-thinned in this. I've pre-thinned it with a bit of water and a bit of that. Bit of airbrush flow improver. So I've got some air in the compressor, make sure it's okay. So let's get a bit more light on it as best I can. So look how like unsmooth how those wings look. Let's get some varnish on that and that'll sort it right out. Then we'll try a bit more scratch work, and I don't think there's much left to do on it. So there we go, that should be enough. Right, so I'll show you on the black side first how this sort of flattens it right out. You're quite liberal with this. It's quite a nice paint. So I keep bumping the camera. But you see how that kills it, that flattens it. I'll try a top wing, and then I'll move the camera out of the way and do it. I'll do a bit more user friendly, because it's not great for me trying to see this when I'm doing this. So get a bit more on there. So you can see how that smooths it right out. Right, I'll shift the phone out of the way and I'll finish it off, and then we'll have a look. There we go. So that's the matte varnish on, flattened it off nicely. So that's the finish I'm kind of looking for. I'm really happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a little bit of work on the canopy. So there's the mascot. See, I've already taken that bit off. I'll just show you how easy this stuff is. It's quite good for this model because it's got quite heavy framing. So I just took a little bit under there and it just peels straight off. Much better than the micro scale stuff, which was diabolical. And that's gone in the bin. Just pick a little bit under there and it just pulls straight off. Obviously careful with your knife on the glazed bit, or just get your tweezers and pull it out. So you can see how nice and clean that is. I'm going to take the rest of the masking off and I'm going to show you a little trick on the canopy to give it a little bit extra depth. But we're not far off there now. Once that's done, I'll put the aerial on and I think that'll we'll call that a day. So that's the mask off. As you can see, we've got quite a nice shiny canopy and it gives you a nice contrast to the matte condition of the model. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give that a little polish, or I'm going to run some of this into the onto the windows. Now I've had this for must be 20 years. I don't know if you can still get this. This is ideal for putting some gloss onto the canopy. You can use other stuff, but I found this to be brilliant. I think it was a modeller's friend for years. So I'll pour a little bit into the cap. Get me a little paintbrush. This is quite straightforward and simple to do. Obviously don't overfill the paintbrush. Just put a little dab on it and rub it in the window. Pop it on the window. It'll find the edges and it'll make it really sparkly. I think you can see kind of see the difference between the windows there. It does make a difference, I can assure you. So I'll put a bit more in there. I'll go around and do all the canopy windows. Then I've got one more thing to do with the canopy to give it that little extra touch. But that's the effect you get. That's quite nice compared to the other side. I don't know if it makes any difference on the camera, but by my eye it's certainly brighter. Right, I'll continue to do that and then we'll finish off with this other bit. Look at that canopy, shiny. Look how good that is. So that material, I'll just go through it again. It's Pledge multi-surface polish. Like I say, I don't know if it's available anymore. That's really good for clear surfaces, for canopies, etc. So like levels it off, and that looks like a modern canopy. Look at that. That is exceptional. Now I'm going to go a little bit further with the canopy. I probably don't need to, but you know, it's the little details, it's the little things that make all the difference. So I've got me Flory wash. It's the black one. I don't know if I've discontinued this one or they still do it, or do something slightly different. So what I'm going to do with that, it's the black one. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'll just show you how to do one, then I'll move stuff out of the way and I'll do the rest and show you the results. So I'll just get a bit of that on the brush and basically just brush it into the window. Try and just keep it on the glass bit and around there, so it like goes inside the edging. So what happens when that's all clean, I'll clean it off and we should have a nice little black edge around between the canopy frame and the window, so it'll look like a seal almost. And because it's quite thick, the framing's quite thick on this, it might just soften that thickness down a bit. So I'll do that, we'll clean it off, we'll come back, I'll put the aerial on, and I think we're done. Right, that's got that sorted. I don't know if it makes any difference to the overall appearance, but it gives it a slightly more 3D dimension, if we can see that. So it almost looks like it's a seal around the canopy, around the framing, which makes it a little bit more in depth. So I think we're done pretty much with the model now. I'm just going to put the aerial on. I'm going to make that from a piece of sprue. This is cut from Bronco's Vanguard Submarine, 1/35 scale submarine, so there's a nice straight bit there. I've showed you how to do this before, but well, yeah, one more time. So warm it up a bit, keep twisting the sprue till it starts to droop, and pull and twist. The faster you pull it, the thinner it becomes. It's not the best actually, this sprue. That might get away with that. So Broncos isn't great for doing it, but there's a bit there. So basically, drop a super glue on the tail. We'll pop it on there, and then we'll stretch it there. Pop a super glue on there, and just trim it off. I don't think you need to see that. If you do want to have a look at that, give us a shout, and I'll do a little video about it. But that's it. Let me do that, and then we'll show the finished model, and I'll have a little chat about these Matchbox kits. And here we are. It's the finished article. So here we have a 1974 edition of Matchbox's Brewster Buffalo. That's the box art. We've had a look at that obviously at the start of the video. 30 pence from Beattie's back in the day. So thoughts on the kit? Well, if you were starting out as a modeler back in the 70s and 80s, these kits were absolutely perfect for you. This thing fell together. There was very little issues with the build. The detail is a bit obviously really minimum for a 50-year-old kit, but you've still got your pilot in there if you can see him. A bit of careful painting, you can produce quite a decent model. So the only extras I've done on that is the aerial, drilled out the machine gun ports, which I assume were 303 Brownings. I would assume 4 on this. And that's basically it. I've used pretty basic materials, if you've seen throughout the build, and I've produced what I think is quite a nice little kit. I'm quite happy with that. So if you were cutting your teeth on models back in the day, these would like enthuse you to go on and build more complicated models because they are so simple. They're not going to give you a headache. Even today, I'd recommend if you just start out in the hobby, try something like this before you go cracking into one of Airfix's brand new 124 scale Spitfires, which I have the Mark 9 by the way, and I've got the Mark 8 on the way. So I will be doing a build video on the Mark 8 Spitfire from Airfix, the brand new 124 scale one. It's basically just a reboxed Mark 9 with the additional parts on to make it a Mark 8 wings, etc. But that's a video for another day. So it's going to be far more complicated build than this, and it probably just, I don't know, will I get as much enjoyment out of that as I have out of this? So there we go, one Brewster Buffalo, a Matchbox Classic. I hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any questions, give us a shout in the comments. I'll try and answer them as quickly as I can. If you want to see any other techniques which I haven't done or I have done and you haven't quite understood them, or you want to see them again, give us a shout and I'll go through them again. Otherwise, I'll put some pictures up at the end of this model. And I think all in all, I'm reasonably happy with that. Time to move on to something else. Thanks for watching. Now, I'm supposed to say, if you like the video, hit the like button and do the subscribe thing. If you don't like the video, don't hit the like button. And if you don't want to subscribe, don't subscribe. It's a free world. Thank you very much.